Satan knows Jesus has a need. This guy is hungry. He's hungry. He needs to eat. He has a need. He needs to eat. So I'm going to go and I'm going to attack his need. And he attacks his need. And see, Satan attacks our needs. Satan attacks our needs to make us feel like what is out there, what's going back, that's going to fulfill our need. Maybe it's loneliness. Maybe like Peter, you feel alone. I don't like this lonely feeling and I need companionship, or I need to feel like I'm worth something, and we go back. Or maybe it's like Jesus, and for a while you've been without something and you feel you're lacking that something, you need that something, and you say, go back. See, Satan comes and reminds you, remember that time? Remember those days? Remember how good it felt? Remember how it made you feel? Remember you didn't feel lonely anymore? Remember how you felt happy? Remember you felt accomplished? Remember? Remember? You remember. I'm sure that catching a big catch for a fisherman felt great. I mean, that was a job to do. And the more fish, the better. Have you guys ever seen this show, Biggest Catch on Discovery Channel? Right? And how great they feel when they have a big catch, and how disappointed they feel when they don't have anything. Right? Everyone? Okay, I guess I'm the only sinner that watches TV. Praise the Lord, right? But there's an accomplishment when you catch something. I've only been fishing maybe 4 times, because I'm not very good at it. And out of those 4 times, I've caught 2 fish. And you say, wow, that's great, right? You should go fishing more often, but not necessarily. The first fish I ever caught was because my mom prayed. It was an intervention. It was God opening up the heavens. We went to a river in Sequoia, big river, and there was it was a part where there's like a waterfall. There's no fish there, right? And I have no idea. And I'm like 12, and I have a busted up fishing pole, and I don't have anything. And so I put cheese, right? Maybe they like cheese. I like cheese, so fish are gonna like cheese. I don't know what I'm doing, and so I'm there, and I'm determined I'm gonna catch a fish. And so I was in the bad area, no hope of catching a fish, and I was there for hours and hours, and I was so stubborn. My wife says was, right? Still and so I went and I sat there, and everyone was eating and having a good time, but I was off on the side, and I was determined to catch a fish. And hours went by, and I would not eat. No, I need to catch this fish. And my mom felt so bad. She said, Lord, give this child the fish so he can come eat. And so, out of nowhere, I get a pull, and I'm like, oh, right, and it's excitement and adrenaline, right, and I'm reeling in, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just, after a while, I'm reeling, I'm just getting the line, and so I catch a fish, and here's the amazing part, and here's how I know it was God, because my hook didn't catch the fish. My hook caught a hook that had already caught the fish. It was a rusty hook, and my hook caught the hook. So I'm like, that's not mine, and I didn't put, my cheese is still there, the fish is down here. And so, but I remember catching that fish and feeling like I am the champion of the world. Wow, there's an accomplishment. It made me feel satisfied. It made me feel like I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a fisherman, right? I'm good at this. And so there's an accomplishment. There's a great feeling. And I'm sure that many, many times like that, Peter had felt accomplished, had felt fulfilled, had felt happy, had felt joyful, reeling in nets of fish, because that's what he was good at. And maybe that's what he went looking for. Maybe he went looking for a satisfaction. Maybe he went looking for a feeling, a feeling good. Maybe he had that. And what happened? He caught nothing. And a lot of times we think, well, if I go back, I did okay at that. If I go back, that gave me satisfaction sometimes. It was okay. I remember it brought me joy. And when we decide to go back, this time is different. Maybe other times before we had joy, we felt accomplished, we felt great about ourselves, but this time we go and we catch nothing. We're empty-handed. We feel lonely. We feel terrible. We feel ashamed. And we're just like the disciples, all night, not even having the need we thought would be met. And that's what happens when we choose to go back. That's what happens when we say, I'm going back. That's the same feeling we get. Because there's nothing there for us anymore. There's nothing there. We're empty when we get there. And so, back to John chapter 21, we're going to read verse 4. It says, early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize it was Jesus. Verse 5, he called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? I love verse 4 and how it starts. It says, early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples didn't even realize that it was Jesus. You see, the disciples are on their way back, empty, broken, cold, confused, tired, maybe grouchy, grumpy, hungry. They're coming back with nothing. And Jesus is already there. Jesus is already there waiting for them. They didn't even know he was there yet. They didn't even know he was there, and he was there. And that's how Jesus is. He shows up in our lives. Maybe we're still hurt, and we realize, I don't know why I went back. I don't know why I gave in. I don't know why I made this. And we feel terrible, and Jesus is already there. Ready to take us back. Ready to help us. Ready to fix our situation. Ready to meet our need. He's there already. I love that about Jesus. He's already there. Before we even reach shore, before we even get to church, before we even get on our knees and start saying, Lord, I'm sorry, Lord, help, he's already there. Wow, what a Jesus. And verse 5 says something very important. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? And when I first read this many times over and over, I thought maybe he's being sarcastic. Hey, what do you guys got there? Right? Maybe he's being sarcastic. That's what you guys get for going to sin. Get you guys. No. Right? You see your nets now. But he says, friends, haven't you have any fish? Haven't you any fish? Do you have any fish? He starts off with friends. What has Jesus called us? Friends. Jesus has called us friends. He says, I no longer call you servants. I call you my friends. And as a lovingly gesture, he says, friends. Friends. He's showing, hey, he knew they didn't have any fish. He knew they didn't have any fish. He's God. He just rose from the dead. Come on. He knows they don't have any fish. But he still wants to hear from you. He wants to interact. He wants to hear from you. He knows your situation, and he knows your need, and he knows how you're feeling already. But he still tells you, what's wrong? What happened? And he knows it. But then that would defeat the purpose of a relationship if he wouldn't ask you. And if he would just supply your needs without saying anything. He wants interaction. He wants that friendship. And that's why he starts off with friends. He starts off with friends because he says, hey, I'm your friend. Let's talk about it. I'm here for you. What are you going through? What do you have there? Because he wants to start dialoguing with you. It's not just about going to Jesus and giving him our needs. It's also not just about going to Jesus and just praising him. It's a combination. It's a friendship. It's an interaction. It's a fellowship between you and God. And that's what I love about Jesus. That you can go the way you are to him and be as real as you can be, and he won't get angry. If you're mad at God, then tell him you're mad. Because he already knows you're mad. A lot of times we have this anger towards God, and we go to the altar, and we try to fool him by saying, you're great, you're holy, thank you, I know everything happens for a reason. But inside you're mad at him. Inside you're upset. He already knows that. He wants to hear, well, why are you upset? Let's talk about it. Why are you disappointed? Let's you and I talk. Because you're not my servant. You're my friend. You're not, I'm not a high God and you're my servant and don't you dare talk to me like that. He says, no, we're friends.